it's, I guess it's like, the basic stuff for us artists.
Yeah, I think so. It's important to like have something on, even if it's not our main focus, but to experiment with different things. Some artists don't, but I
Yeah.
think the experimentation of an idea is really
Mhm.
important, like to the process for, and everybody experiments in different ways. Maybe it's medium, maybe it's just a different
Yeah.
style, maybe it's, a texture or something that inspired the experiment. But yeah, I think it's important.
What did I
And
miss? What are you
we're
experimenting with?
we're just talking about his like current work. He asked me like that if I came from painting, and we got started talking about like his process of like trying as both were talking about moving from one thing to another to not lose interest. But
Right.
I was curious, what inspired the scarecrow idea? Because
Yeah.
it seems like if you're living in the city, it's not something you necessarily think about.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Well, I guess it's the starting point was my need for I was a lot into abstraction for a long
Mhm.
time in the studies, and I kind of get lost there. And I wanted to go back to the figure, but I didn't want to do a classical figure like we do in
Mhm.
studies and stuff like that in college or whatever. And I kind of saw some images of Scarecrow, and I was like, that's the perfect combination of these two worlds, like abstract and figurative, and sort of start playing with that to combine them in this half abstract, half figurative paintings.
Mhm.
And also the idea of correlation between humans and nature, of course, and ephemeral side of the body, and like it's also for me, it's kind of a they're the symbols of art itself because they're just like the representation of something that's it's just a representation of us. It's not really us, and it's interesting to me to try to explore that.
Hmm.
And what was it that like, because if I were doing this, my first thought wouldn't be scarecrow. Like I would maybe think of a few other things that were like representations,
Yeah.
but how did you come to scarecrow being like that? Did you like see a movie or something that like made this idea click into place?
Yeah. First, of course, it was just visually appealing to me,
Mm,
and also the that idea that not necessarily artists make them, the farmers make them, which is interesting to me.
Hmm.
Like the regular folk on the
mhm.
countryside, they make these objects that are not art, but they end up they're effective. I mean, they do kind of scare the crows and the birds and save the crops. So they have some type of meaning. And I guess it was in the beginning, it was everything was visual. I just like how they look.
Hmm.
So I started painting them and drawing them. And later, I saw a movie. Is it? It's not Alice in Wonderland. It's the
Ah,
old first movie that
Wizard
was
of Oz.
Wizard of Oz, right? And
Mm.
there was a scarecrow who sang the song "If I Only Had a Brain," and that was really the trigger point for me to continue to do this. Because I started thinking about how they're just shallow type of uh, bunch of clothes combined together to just look like us.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't
That's
know.
super interesting. I think that's the only place I saw a scarecrow is in the Wizard of Oz. I don't think I've ever seen it in person. Like that was
Oh,
a
really?
yeah, I think like that was an interesting point that Teresa was asking you how did it all start? Because like
Yeah,
for me also like it sounds like a really random thing like that they
yeah, and it's almost like naive when you think about it.
Yeah.
It's always represented in the children books and stuff like that. It's not really common thing to see. Well, maybe on countryside, but not anymore. Now we have like other stuff that is changed through technology. It's not scarecrows anymore, but they're actually pretty old. Well, since we like humans, like civilization, since we started to do crops and stuff, I think they existed like through that era, throughout
Yeah,
whole
that's an
history.
interesting relation.
Yeah.
You
So
see
it's
them a
kind
lot
of-
in. You
Sorry,
see them a
like-
lot. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. No, I just wanted to say like it's connected to civilization, like the
Yeah.
in a form that we know. Sorry, what did you want to say, Rosie?
Oh, I was gonna say you do. Yeah, you see them a lot here. Still, and but people also here like they make them into a bit of a joke. Like people,
Yeah.
there's a bit of a sense of humor
Yeah.
around the scarecrows, and they have like silly hats or like sometimes they're not just the scarecrows, they're sort of just
Yeah,
scare
but I also
people
like
as well.
that part. I also like that.
Uh-huh.
That it's
Mm.
interesting to me that they're not really scary. They're just like maybe used in some horror movies and stuff like Western pop culture stuff. But they can also be like, as I said, maybe naive or colorful or whatever.
Mm.
I don't know.
And the idea of like stuffing clothes.
Mm-hmm.
They have
How does the scarecrow look to an animal? I am almost sure that animal, when it sees scarecrow, it's like humans seeing some kind of, I don't know, horrible spider that you have phobia from, you know? It's
Yeah,
a thing.
well, I
It's like
tested
you see
that
it and you're
kind
like,
of
run. It's like,
I couldn't believe it because uh in January this year I started to do I was on the countryside with my friends. Then we had this camera and I got that idea to do something about it. And I dressed up as a scarecrow and we did some initial first footage and stuff. But we also have a pack of dogs with us that we spend our days with them. And when I dressed up and act like a scarecrow, they got spooked kind of. They started
Mm.
yeah.
to really react to me, even though if they know who I am, they were like
But how
Right.
did you dress? Like
Yeah.
what are the elements that did you put on yourself?
I found an old clothes from the house that was there. It was just like experiment thing, and it came out really good. I like it.
So it's just the clothes that was different. Like you didn't
Yeah.
put any hay or anything that was like
No, I covered my whole face and everything and hands just to look like that. But it was basically just clothes and a couple of other elements like a big stick that should kind of look like I hang on the stick, stuff like that.
Mm.
But
I
that's
was
all.
thinking the scarecrow is almost like the old like a cyborg in a way, because it's like a modified human that's this kind of amalgamation between like farming and like the work and the human body. And like if you think of like a cyborg, and like I mean even the Tin Man is a cyborg as well. Like he's like a robot. And when the original book was written, it was like that was way ahead of its time. In a way, it was actually quite a futuristic thing. It was only written in the 1900s, so for like a man to look like that kind of robot thing, that was like really futuristic kind of thing. And even Oz is probably a cyborg in a way. He's like this being that's like separated from human. He's almost like maybe the internet or like some kind of like all-knowing thing, but it's still
Like a hologram.
yeah. I have this book. I don't know if you've heard. There's this. She's a theorist and a writer and philosopher. She's called Donna Haraway. and she quite writes a lot of feminist theory as well, but she wrote this thing called the Cyborg Manifesto, and you can probably find it online, maybe like a PDF or something, but her writing's very dense. It's very hard to kind of like get your head around fully, but it's this idea of the human and the workforce being like, we're meaning that we're all cyborgs, so like how the human body is changed by the sort of social functions, and that makes the cyborg kind of thing.
Yeah, I'll check it
But
out.
yeah, it just made me think about the scarecrow being a cyborg. Was like,
Well, now farmers are in more advanced countries are fighting against predators by drones and stuff like technology. It's really different now.
So it's
Only-
really
they
cyborgs.
use drones to scare off the animal to
Yeah,
wild.
yeah,
No
yeah.
way.
Huh?
That's like the future of saving the crops and stuff for the farmers.
But I wonder, how is it that the crows are scared of scarecrows and the pigeons are not scared of these fake owls that people are placing on the balcony?
Yeah, well, they adapt to the city.
It's because they don't move them, so they don't, once you see it stagnant in the same place, they realize that they're not real predators. So you have to, the problem with the owls is you have to constantly move them so that the pigeons believe that they are a real
one.
predator.
Right.
Yeah. To that, I have a very, very disturbing video that I caught yesterday of a seagull eating a pigeon on my, like the neighbor's, roof. I was like looking on sending a message to my boyfriend, and then I was like totally disturbed seeing this seagull picking it apart and like shaking it, and I was like, oh, and I had to video it because I was like, this is insane. I've never seen anything like that from a seagull,
We're
you know.
seeing this in front of our building a lot because like there is a lot of pigeons in this neighborhood and there is also a lot of seagulls. And it's somehow because we're kind of like in this zone that's like really close to the harbor. So I'm guessing that's why there is a lot of seagulls. And like we live like really high, so we live with seagulls. Like last year, like we have been watching like the seagull family raising like two young ones. And
Yeah, it's so fun.
like
They
from
started with two of them. Then they have three younglings. Now the younglings and the two adults, they're all
living in the same roof that we can see. So now we're expecting like more family growing.
But two
anyway,
others are here just across on the other building. So they mingle. So it's a big family, by the way.
yeah, so we know this big family, but then like when it's on the other side of the building, like it's a park. So then like it's like really crazy. Like these pigeons are like there eating, and then there is these homeless people and pigeons, and then like sometimes the seagulls are among them, and then sometimes they just attack somebody. It's like I don't understand, like how is it that they're not attacking them all the time, just only sometimes? It's like I don't really understand how it works. So I'm like really torn. Like I really like them because like we're neighbors here, but then when I see them there, like I'm trying to defend the pigeons, it's like crazy. And like you can see all the time parts of the pigeons like lying everywhere because eagle was eating some.
I reconcile that in my mind. My neighbor is a psychopath. What can you do? It's like,
Yeah, this was very disturbing to me. It was like, I mean, I thought, what is it eating? Like, did it get a tissue or something? And then I saw it like when it shook it, I saw it like the body, and I was like, oh my God. And then its beak was getting more and more red from the blood. And I was like, this is so disturbing. But I couldn't stop watching, you know, I was like locked in, like, oh,
Really?
it
So
was.
you watch the thing that scares you?
Yeah, it was like disturbing, you know, like if you see a
That's
car
scary,
accident, you
disturbing.
want to know more like about it. You want to see the situation and understand it more. And I was I was like trapped. And then I had to stop recording the message. I just like, oh my God, I'm seeing a seagull like murdering a pigeon right now. And then I started recording it because I thought like, it took my brain, as I'm like leaving this voice message, time to process what am I looking at. And then once I realized, I like had to stop the message because I needed to be able to look back and see, are my eyes deceiving me? Is this really what I'm seeing? And then it became more and more clear, and I was able to zoom in with my phone, and I was like, oh my gosh, it is what because it's just across like the building right in front of me. And so I can see it like clear as day. But I
Which
thought like
building?
I
Like
must.
with not in
So
the
from the
backyard,
balcony,
the one
no,
that's
the
in
here
the
right in
street.
front, where
Mm.
the balcony and the street and the building right in front on the top. It's like you see it very closely, but I thought like I must be like, this can't be what I think I'm
Oh my
seeing.
God.
So I started to record it, and it was like, wow, this is an intense,
You know,
intense.
Lacan would be say that's enjoyment in the real. You're
I
actually
guess.
enjoying, and it's not reality. You were not enjoying in reality of it. That's disturbing. But
Yeah.
real, that why does it take your attention so much that you have to watch it?
That's
That's real. Like
And
it,
film it on
yeah,
top of that, because
yeah.
I was like very disturbed by it,
Yeah.
and and but also curious about like why and how and all of these like why here, why this place, why is it not foraging for something, how did this take place, you know, like did it attack it and kill it, or because I caught it when it was like just beginning, so I don't know what happened just before that. I was like walking around and talking, and then I went to the window and I was looking out and I saw, you know, what looked like it just like pecking at a tissue, I thought. And then it just got more and more gruesome. And I was like, oh, this is not like, did it bring it there? Was there a fight? I missed that whole part, but then my brain started going into this whole
Filling in gaps,
imaginative
yeah.
past.
Maybe
So
you can
yeah,
look at it like this. Maybe the pigeon was tired of life. He killed himself, and the other guy was like, "Well, what a waste would be to not
what a
eat it."
waste.
I mean, yeah. So everything is fine.
And
Wait,
probably
Once
well,
wait.
return.
I have three things. First one is like for Ilya to think like with the scarecrow would be scaring the seagulls. Then the second thing is like, Teresa, what do you do with these pictures? Like in your mind, like when you could continue watching something that is like upsetting, like afterwards, how do you process this? Like for me, it's like, yeah. And the third thing is like I heard in some podcasts, like the reason why people are usually watching, like if there is like an accident in the street or something, like, and everybody are afraid, but then they're still looking. Like one of the reasons, like they explain psychologically, is that like we're trying to understand how to avoid a situation, like so it doesn't happen to us. But I'm the one that I'm like, I don't care, like I don't want to see it, you know. Because I don't see it as helpful in any way. And then like I have these images in my mind that like they keep coming back. Like for example, like if I'm quiet or if I close my eyes, like these disturbing images would be coming back, and then I would be like over and over reliving this. So
But the
like,
question,
Yeah.
when you see that kind of image, for example, a pigeon and a seagull, where do you place yourself? Are you the pigeon or are you the seagull? That's the question.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is the very interesting thing, because what Gotso was just saying was, you know, my brain went to like, you know, the not a future avoidance, but I saw into the future. Oh, I hope this doesn't become like a common thing. Like I hope that it's not like a birds kind of situation where these seagulls are just like flying in and then attacking all the pigeons, because there are a lot of pigeons in the neighborhood, of course. But part of me was also like, okay, now this pigeon is just on this person's roof and is gonna smell, and maybe it's gonna, you know, summer's coming, and I'm thinking, oh, I hope doesn't become a bigger problem in the future. Like maybe it will, because of I don't know, the current
They will
situation.
think-
Maybe there's
I think it's interesting because the seagulls and pigeons, like they are like part and parcel. There are kind of like we coexist with these creatures and they coexist with us. Like they'll go wherever humans go because they feed off human food. And so like when I was thinking about whether or not a scarecrow would scare a seagull, I feel like it would probably just attract seagulls because they're like,
Mhm.
oh, a human, like we like that. We'll go
Let's
to
kill
that.
him.
Yeah,
But
humans,
also
they're
they're
pigeons
quite
there.
like they're also like really adaptable and like really present in urban spaces. And I think when we see something like that, which is probably nature at its like rawest, we're so shocked because we're not really expecting to see so much nature in urban like environments, you know, like
Hmm.
maybe I think maybe yeah the pigeon might have been like attacked by a cat or something, and then the seagull probably took its chance because they just eat anything, don't they? And maybe that
Yeah, or maybe it just died, because I mean that's also possible. I saw just last summer, I saw this pigeon and it wasn't looking so great, and same on the same roof last year, and thinking it's like peak summer. It was when Asa was here actually in August, and I thought like, oof, this pigeon's not looking great. Like it's must not be getting enough water or something, and then one day it was just like like sitting in the same spot and just like
Oh,
dead on there and sitting there, and I just thought like, oh, it's maybe it dehydrated and just stayed in the sun and fried, you know, like cooked
yeah,
itself.
yeah.
and and I thought, you know, like when I saw this I was like, was there a struggle, like what happened? I don't know, because I've never seen a seagull eating like another bird. I've seen them eat fish and things like that, and of course human food and rocks, but like I've never seen them eating like some with the blood and guts and everything. I thought like,
We
wow.
Very
saw
vicious,
we
like-
saw one attacking a pigeon.
Yeah, yeah.
Like we arrived like at the moment that he was attacking, and this pigeon was still alive and trying to defend. And then I tried to scare away the seagull, and like I managed to scare him away, but then this pigeon was hurt, and then like he flew into some kind of like, I don't know, it looked like a cage, I guess, like there is like some electricity or something that's like, so the cage is protected. So he flew in there, and then like I couldn't do anything, and then we had to go to the vet. And then I was thinking like, what a paradox, like I'm trying to save my cat, and then I'm leaving this pigeon, and like probably the seagull will just come in there and get him. But then like, so I don't know what happened after, but like the pigeon was fine before that, so the seagull just attacked him, like,
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
well, they're super territorial, aren't they, seagulls? And I
Oh,
guess
yeah.
seagulls and pigeons are like taking up the same spaces. So
Yeah, it's true.
Have you seen
maybe
the
they
movie
like just
Birds?
take them out.
Hitchcock?
That was my first like concern was,
Yeah.
I hope this doesn't turn into a birds like situation with like
bird
Ah,
fest.
you were
swooping
thinking about
and, you
those
know, going
birds.
crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking like, for example, like, so if the scarecrow will not scare the seagull because the seagull are like used to humans, but then like there is like crows in Belgrade. Like for me, like seagulls are kind of like representation of Barcelona because like there is so many of them. But then in Belgrade, like the crows are representation of Belgrade because like we used to live next to the park, and it's like so many of them. And then, for example, one time, like one of the young ones fell down from the nest, and it was in the street. And then like we did not notice it because it was kind of like, you know, hiding next to the car. I mean, the young one was still like this big, so it's like, but he could not fly. And then like we were just passing by, and like two big crows were like flying around, and like we were like, oh my god, like they're attacking us. But then like they were just like attacking, not attacking, but flying really low, trying
Swooping.
to scare
Yeah.
away everybody who are passing through. And
They've been
then
doing it for days and days.
for
like-
days, like no, at first like
Yeah.
they were doing it like for the whole day while the young one was
Yeah,
there.
but
Then
the-
I was like, well, I think like the young one went to the park
Yeah,
because
he
it
was
was
in the
closed.
park. You could see it. He was just on a grass in the park for days, and they were just on the
They
on
were
the branches,
defending.
yeah,
And
watching.
everybody, somebody would pass by, like
Especially with dogs, you know.
they were like coming down, and like they were defending him like for like I don't know how long, until he
Yeah.
started flying and could move away. So it's kind of like, I don't think in this situation scarecrow would be helpful.
Yeah.
It would be scared.
That's really interesting. I would like to see the scarecrow with the seagull, like an experiment done like this, you know, even if you were dressed as a scarecrow and did this like kind of as a performance to see would it attract or would it scare them away, because it is something odd, you know,
Yeah.
a bit out of a little abnormal for them to see or witness, you know. And what it would be the reaction, because when you go to the beach you see a lot of seagulls, but you get the occasional pigeon that's like, you know, advantageous and wants to get in and see what's going on. So I would really like to see that. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Ilya,
Yes,
it's a challenge.
scarecrow in a city is definitely a good idea. It's
Mm.
Yeah.
unexpected. Yeah.
I wonder what will happen. But I think like what you were saying with the dogs, like maybe they were reacting because you covered the face and the
Yes, yeah.
hands. That's what I'm thinking that happened probably.
Somebody else appeared.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
you're
And maybe your scent was like something familiar to them, but
Yeah.
what they associated visually with your scent didn't like match, and it spooked them.
Also, if
Perhaps.
you're doing that in the city with these birds, protect your eyes.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe they will be like, it's a human. Close the eyes, you know. Attack.
Yeah, wear a ski mask
Yeah.
just in case. But
Yeah.
it's super scary, like when they were flying so low, you know, it was like the park and the street next to the park, like we were living there, and like we just went out of the building and like there were like these like crows
Yeah, there
flying
was
so.
some story. I don't know if it's true, but I guess it is. It was in the newspapers. Some
It must be
yeah,
true.
it must be true. Because some maybe woman, I don't know, I think jogging, and they attacked from back and poke one of her eyes.
Oh,
It
Where?
was unexpected somewhere
In
in
Belgrade.
Belgrade many years ago, yeah. But I remember that one. I was
See,
like,
Belgrade
oh.
is dangerous.
Yeah.
There's predators.
Yeah.
and now I have a new fear about the seagull doing that now. Like I have this distance from my balcony, but it's really only a few meters away. So it's very, I don't know, interesting.
They're big birds. Like I've been
Yeah.
by
Huge.
them. Well, not I've been attacked. They've just like they dive, but like if you
Swooped.
eat-
Yeah, swooped in.
yeah. If you're eating on the beach, like I have. If I'm like buying an ice cream on the beach, I'm like running like like it's really not an enjoyable experience.
I did something crazy like 40 years ago, like I was feeding the seagulls because I saw some people were feeding, like, well, not people, probably one, there were some crazy people doing this here, but so I thought it was an interesting
There
idea.
is one crazy,
Yeah.
crazy people going there.
I mean,
Yeah,
now
to
there
let
is
you
a
know.
sign, it's forbidden to feed the seagulls, but
After she did it.
no, but I did it at the beach and it was kind of like winter and empty beach. And I saw somebody was like throwing in the air like pieces of bread, and then the seagull were catching. And I thought that was super fascinating. And so I had to try it myself,
Yeah.
and I filmed it. So I have it on YouTube. I'll send you. So it's like, I mean, now I'm kind of embarrassed, like you're not supposed to do that. But like, I really liked the interaction because it was super interesting. Like you throw in the air like the piece of bread, and they would be coming and catching it like so, like we were so coordinating. It was like super interesting. And the experience of them like flying and trying to stay, you know, because like they would catch the piece of the food, but then like they don't want to lose the turn, so like they're trying to fly in spot, so like they're kind of like above me like this. So that was kind of like really crazy.
Yeah, the sound was crazy.
Yeah, the
There are lots
sound
of
was
them, you know.
I have to show you.
My mom told me stories when she was a kid. They would go visit family, go out on the pier, and so because the seagulls were such a nuisance, and you weren't supposed to feed them, they would throw Alka-Seltzer, you know, for like if you have a headache or something, it bubbles and it's like fizzy, you know. They would throw Alka-Seltzer tablets into the air, like you're saying, and the seagulls would get them and it would kill them because it would like
Yeah.
foam in their stomach,
Immediately,
and then you just see them like
bang.
crashing out of the sky.
shit.
And I said, how many tablets?
What?
She's like, oh, 2 or 3, and then it would really kill them. And I just thought like, you did this like for fun with your cousins? And she's like, yeah, we would laugh so hard. And I was just like,
Oh
Mom,
my
that's
God.
really messed up. You know, I was in high
Yeah.
school when she was telling me this, and I'm like, that's really messed up. And she's like, no, they're like rats. So like everybody would, you know, be happy to see them like falling into the water off the pier, you know. And I just thought like,
Oh, that's
so
horrible.
creepy.
I
Yeah.
would even feel like we had a rat once in our flat, and I still felt bad even killing that. It was just one rat, and I was like, oh no.
I had a whole
Yeah.
family of mice in the house, and I was saving them. Like I was putting traps, like the humane traps, and then I was like collecting them because I knew it was the whole family. So like I was collecting them and putting them in like what's the like terrarium? Is that the word? Like the glass
Yeah.
thing where you keep
Yeah.
snakes. So like I was putting all these mice, and then I was putting the whole thing in the car and taking them in the park, like the big park, to release them. But then like these mice, they only wanted to come. They didn't want to eat bread. I had to bake them cookies so they would come into the and one time I was preparing the cake, the cookies. So like the cookie dough was in the pot, and then like I don't know how, but then like one of the mice fell into this, so I had to wash him.
Oh no.
And then it turns out it was a pregnant one. And then like while I was waiting to catch the others, she got babies. So then, like,
Lots of
it was
fun.
like the whole week of entertainment, like
Oh my
catching the
gosh.
mice, baking the cookies, and taking. And then, of course, I didn't want anyone to see me, like getting with the car with a big glass tank, releasing.
So basically, you were taking the mice in the tank, setting them in the park, but you were fattening them up with cookie dough,
Yeah.
and then they're probably going to get eaten by the crows anyway.
I
Yeah.
wanted all of them to be together, so it was like maybe 7 of them, like the whole family.
It's a holocaust.
And you fed them ultimately
that's
to the
so
crows,
sweet.
like Rosie's saying. You fattened them up
No, but this
and
was
then set
different
them.
park. I
You
don't
made
think
an
there's
offering to
crows
the crows.
in that
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
It's more like we call it woods, but it's not wood. It's actually like a big park, but it's like the Zvezdara. So like
Mhm.
Ilya would know. Zvezdara, it's not like a park, it's
Yeah.
bigger. I don't think there is crows there. It's
It would have
still
been really poetic if it was like you were releasing them into a graveyard and then just like the crows are picking them off one by one. Like I'm thinking about the graveyard at the top of
But
the
you know, now
hill.
that
Run free.
now that I'm telling
Yeah,
you the
and
story,
then-
it feels like I was living in like, I don't know, like 100 years ago, because I was living in my grandmother's house that was kind of like falling apart. So like we had like this big gap underneath the door, and the snails were coming. But you know, the snails, the one without the house, is the same word.
Slugs.
Slug.
Slugs.
Yeah,
They
slug.
were coming like under the door and stealing our cat's food. And then one time, so like he would just like find like the slugs trail around the kitchen, and then like you could see like where they like they can bite, like they have like a
Yeah.
really, like they can open their mouth. And then like I saw their sex. Like I have a video with my first digital camera.
Yeah,
I have
and
to
they
find
like-
it. Like they like
Yeah.
intertwine. They have kind of like blue penises that come out, and then like they make a spiral. It looks
Yeah.
amazing, like an
I
alien.
know.
And
That's
I have
amazing.
like
You
in
saw
3
that.
megapixels digital camera, like this big video.
That would be a good
Yeah,
one.
because they're hermaphrodites, right? They have
Yeah, they
both
they
male
make like
and
a
female organs.
I guess
yeah, and they
produce what they
basically
need,
just
like-
exchange the fluids together. They make like a goo, and then they exchange, and they both
Whatever.
can get
Yeah.
pregnant and both exchange DNA. So yeah, it's interesting.
Amazing. It looks
Yeah.
really crazy. So yeah,
Mm.
I lived in this kind of mice
Wow.
and slugs. You know, that was a normal thing.
You
And
were at
one
one with
time,
nature.
crazy thing happened. This is the last story. I'm sorry. I should have to tell you this one. Like one time, our stove stopped working, and then I decided to open it because it was like one of the old kind of stoves. So you just take the screws off from the back, and then I found the slug and the mice like I don't know who died first,
Cohabitating.
like maybe it was a love affair and then, like they killed themselves, but like both of them like got stuck to the wire and died. So like the mice were like this in the wire. And then like, but poor mice, and then the slug was just there dead, like I don't know, maybe like electrified also. But, like,
It's like
Hmm.
this.
Oh, do you know,
Yeah.
I probably went in there because it was warm.
Mm.
And
yeah,
then,
yeah. So yeah, that's where I lived. And that's
wow.
all in Toplichka, just to know. So you both
Oh.
Oh, really?
Toplichka. That was
Yeah.
like where the house was before that building. So
Ah, that was
Okay.
before. Okay.
yeah. I'll send you the images. Like the house was like really crazy.
Yeah.
Sex.
And the sex with the snails. I have to
And
find
the
it
snail
somewhere
sex.
in the
Whoever's not in the meeting, they're gonna see these things and they're gonna be like, "What was the meeting about
Yeah.
tonight? Like, this is
Why
crazy."
didn't we attend the meeting? We missed the biggest one.
we should post this like in a supermarket art fair. Like so
Yeah.
it's the most
Passion. It's gonna be called passion.
Passion.
Yeah, passion.
Yeah, exactly.
We have 1.5 minutes
Yeah. Oh, passion, yeah.
of
Oh, yeah,
passion.
that's good. Actually, that's a
Oh
brilliant.
my gosh.
Okay.
I'll send you guys the video of the murder that I saw. So watch it if you want,
Pashko will
Gotsa, but
watch it.
don't if
I want to
you're
watch it. I want to see it.
yeah.
There's an Instagram account called Nature is Metal. Have you heard of it?
Yeah,
Nope, but that sounds great.
It's awesome.
it's brutal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got that exact thing. So it's like stuff that's happened, like that happens in nature that's like fucked up, but it's not fucked up for nature. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
perfectly normal, or like sometimes there's like abnormalities or whatever. But yeah, it's that kind of thing. You're like, it's really disturbing, but you really want to keep watching.
Yeah. This is
We-
that
when
experience I
this-
was like,
It's called Nature is Metal, as in like
it's on Instagram.
yeah, on Instagram. The most recent one I watched was this python. So you know the pythons, they can disconnect their jaw so that they
Yeah.
can like swallow prey, and they don't chew. They just consume these animals, and then their gut acids like do the work and
Yeah.
break down this thing.